So you put a mic in front of me. Good evening.
Good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you greetings from Southern University at Shreveport under the leadership of Dr. Rodney Ellis, our Chancellor, Dr. Melville Williams, our Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs and Enrollment Management. I would like to extend a special thanks to Mrs. Elaine Casey, who serves today as our Director of TRIO Educational Talent Search. Ms. Casey, can you stand? Or let's give her a round of applause, please. Along with her staff, Ms. Tanja Prudhomme, please stand. Ms. Crystal Smith, and Mr. Levester Mills. Let's give these individuals a round of applause. They are the educational advisors for Educational Talent Search. And as the Assistant Vice Chancellor, I would be remiss if I did not recognize and acknowledge all of our teachers from Caddo and Bossier parishes that serve the Educational Talent Search during the summer as well as throughout the academic year. Sometimes you might feel like a hidden figure, but I want you to know that we know you're there and we appreciate your service. Please stand, all of the Educational Talent Search teachers, for providing us with your gifts and your talent. Thank you so much. To our parents, we would like to thank you for allowing your students to participate this summer in our summer component. We truly appreciate you and your commitment this summer as well as throughout the school year. I am looking for some hidden figures. Do we have any hidden figures in the room? Yes? All of our middle schoolers, are you here? Can you come up front, please? These chairs are for our hidden figures. I need all of our program students to come sit up front. Yes, I am asking you to leave your chairs. And you all can sit there. My head table here. Give them a round of applause. They've done an awesome job. They're here with me already. All of my hidden figures, please come up front. And parents can continue to give them a round of applause. Can't make this stand. You are hidden figures today. Thank you so much for dedicating your summer with us at Southern University Shreveport. We appreciate you taking the time to learn about math, to take time and read, to study robotics. Did you not? We have some awesome robots back in the back of the room. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. I read a book this summer. It's called Hidden Figures.
All right.
Have you ever read this book? Hello, have you read this book? Excellent. I read Hidden Figures because Miss Casey made me. But when I read this awesome book, there was something great that I noticed. There was an individual in this book that stood out to me. Did you hear about Miss Dorothy Bond? Hello, young people. Okay, Dorothy Bond is in this book. She's actually a member of my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and I had the opportunity to see her last week in our regional conference. Very exciting. I told her that I would be speaking to you today. There is a special page in this book that stood out to me. Can I read it to you? You might have already memorized it, right? Let's see if you remember. In Hidden Figures, Margot Lee Shetterly, our author, chapter 6, The Colored Computer. Do you remember chapter 6? Page 37. I'm going to read it to you. On her first day of work at Langley, Dorothy Vaughn spent the morning in the personnel department filling out paperwork. As part of her orientation, she held up her right hand and swore the United States Civil Service oath of office. She said, "I, Dorothy Vaughn, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic." And it goes on. She took the pledge, young people, seriously, as anyone should. But it was her identification badge that made her feel like an official employee. The badge, a blue metal circle featuring an image of her face with winged NACA logo on either side, granted her access to the various facilities at Langley Laboratory. You see, Dorothy Vaughn felt on her first day, it wasn't necessarily the oath that was an impactful moment, but it was her identification badge with her picture on it. Her identification badge, young people, gave her access to the facility. I'm here to say that Miss Dorothy Vaughn's identification badge not only gave her access to the facility, but what she didn't realize is that it gave her access to many phenomenal opportunities. Let me share. Her identification badge granted her access to opportunities to change her family's future. She went from $875 a year as a teacher to $2,000 a year. Wow. Back in the 1940s. Lots of money. Her identification badge granted her access to influence the civil rights era by getting a very good job in aeronautics that had never been dreamed of yet for an African American. Her identification badge granted her access to contributing to the fight of gender equality and women's rights, proving herself as an African American woman in the 1940s as educated and valuable. Her identification badge, young people, granted her access to share her gifts and talents through mathematics in ways that she would never imagine as a member of the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. And her identification badge granted her access to a defining moment in the space race by propelling the United States aeronautically to the moon for the very first time. You see, Dorothy Vaughn's identification was a pivotal moment for her. It was a moment in her career that would transform not only the world, but the universe. That identification that we find in our book, Hidden Figures, this summer, it served as her opportunity to encourage you today as young people. I'm here to tell you, this is for you. You are the hidden figure. Can I get you to repeat after me? Yes, 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 me? Okay, thank you. Say, my identification defines my access. A little bit louder. Say, my identification defines my access. One more time and point to yourself. Say, my identification defines my access. Young people, I'm talking to you today about your identification. I'm talking to you about defining your future. You see, when I was your age, that's why I had you sit up front, I had a hidden identification. I didn't know who I was at your age. I allowed other people to decide how to identify me. I had no input whatsoever. At your age, I was the shyest girl in school. I never said a mumbling word. I spoke at home, but I never spoke out in public. I was nervous, I was frightened, I was not so confident. Have you ever felt that way? No? Well, I have.
Oh, wow.
I have. And I'm going to tell you about it. When I was in first grade, I remember my teacher telling my mom, she's too quiet. She doesn't say too much in the classroom. I don't think she's capable of learning. So they placed me in a special class. That's when I realized for the very first time, I allowed someone to define me. My first grade teacher defined me as incapable of learning or a slow learner. But hey, it doesn't stop there. As I continued on in middle school, others defined me in so many ways. You see, I was the skinniest girl in school, so other students would define me as the skinny girl. You see, I wasn't as pretty, so the little boys would define me as the ugly girl. You see, no one wanted to be my friend because I was so short and so shy. So they defined me as the lonely girl. I allowed others to define me. There was one particular time, and this one really touched me. My mother, a single parent, had about 6 or 7 sisters, like the wicked sisters of the West, is what I call them. She was sitting around talking to them about the futures of their kids, etc. You see, they were married and they had successful careers and they were pretty beautiful and all that good stuff. But my mom was a struggling single parent and she wasn't the best, as many would say. She was doing the best that she could with 3 children. I remember standing right next to her when she was having a conversation with her sisters. And she said, "Little Tuesday is going to go to college." You know what her sister said? They said, "That little nappy-haired girl is not going to go to college. She's not going to amount to anything." Yes, that's what they said. Something inside of me just rattled up. I was heartbroken because these were my mom's sisters, my own family. They defined me as least likely to succeed. But something in my mom, I could see in her eyes, just motivated her. She didn't say anything, but by the time I entered high school and hit my senior year, she came to me and she said, "Tuesday, I want you to go to the school counselor and get one of those college catalogs." She said, "Try to get one on Grambling or Southern, because that's all I know." See, my mom was uneducated. She worked at a factory, 12-hour days. She didn't have the education at the time. So, me still being the shyest girl in school, I mustered up enough courage to walk into the counselor's office. You know what that's like, right? It's kind of a scary experience. And I went into the counselor's office and I asked my counselor for one of the catalogs that she had on her wall. It was about 100 of them. And she said to me, "Tuesday, I don't think you're college material."
Oh, Lord.
And with my shy self, I walked away, once again heartbroken, believing the identification that I wasn't college ready. I passed the hundreds of catalogs, and she said, "By the way, I don't have Southern or Grambling. I have no HBCUs," basically what she was saying. I walked out the door and told my mom. With her uneducated self, she was still determined to make that dream happen that she had for me. See, she saw a hidden figure in me that I couldn't see, and that I was worthy of an education.
That's right.
So she drove us to this school. And she went inside and she was in there for about an hour, so I didn't know what she was doing. I had never seen this school before. When she came out, she had a piece of paper in her hand. She got in the car and she handed me this piece of paper and drove off. I read the paper, and guess what it said, young people? It said, "Dear Tuesday, you are accepted."
All right.
Southern University Board, which was Sudbury at the time, stated that I was accepted. Do you know where Southern University is?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been there?
Mm-hmm.
They identified me as being accepted.
That's
right.
And that changed my life.
Yeah.
My first day on the campus, I started to change the way that I identified or even allowed others to identify me.
That's right.
I made a decision that I would be successful, that I would be educated, that I would be one of these professionals on this campus one day. I didn't know I would actually be one of these professionals on their campus one day. You see how God works? I had to go there.
Amen.
I changed the way that I identified myself. And I recognized the hidden figure in me was capable of doing all things. So young people today, I didn't sit you up here to put your hand on your head and look down. No, I set you up here to re-identify yourself. Because I know in middle school sometimes, your classmates might say that you're ugly. They might say you're stupid. They might say you're crazy. They might say you're dumb. But guess what? They don't control your identity.
That's
You
right.
have a hidden
That's
identity
right.
inside of you that will impact not only the world, but the universe.
That's
So
right.
today, Educational Opportunity Centers, we're going to show you what's inside of you. We're going to help you understand that. I want all of my young people to stand up. Stand up, hidden figures. Let's figure out what's inside of you. And I know this is going to be a little non-traditional, but for each one of these young people, I need a guardian, a teacher, or someone to stand in front of these young people. Guardian, your parent, guardian, whoever is here with you tonight, I need one guardian to stand in front of each student today. Because sometimes, for those who are saying negative things about you, you need to find that one person that's going to say some positive things, like my mom, who's no longer with us, unfortunately. We lost her in 2013, but she never gave up. And when I walked across the stage, oh, by the way, those aunts and the counselor, who is my daughter's counselor today, believe it or not, they all identify me as Dr. Tuesday Mahoney. Okay? The young girl that would never go to college and amount to anything. So I want your guardian. Do they need to turn around? Your parent might be behind you. I need some parents on stage. Stand in front of your parents. You can come off stage and stand in front of your parents, please. Or a guardian. Or a teacher, whoever is here. You see, just like my mom, I had that one person that was so positive things into my life. And so tonight, with the Educational Talent Search Program, under the leadership of Ms. Casey and her team and her teachers, we're going to get these parents to bring out the hidden figure in their child. So I want you to say their name like Tuesday, you are whatever I say. Are you ready, parents? You say their name, okay? Here we go. We are bringing out the hidden figures in our young people. Here we go. Tuesday, you are great. Tuesday, you are amazing. Tuesday, you are happy. Are you saying this? Tuesday, you are wonderful. Tuesday, you are an overcomer. Tuesday, you are talented. Tuesday, you are gifted. Tuesday, you are creative. Tuesday, you are determined. Tuesday, you will change the world. Give your parent a hug. Give your guardian a hug. Young people, we want to thank you for your preparation of doing amazing things in the future. We want you to know when others put you down, you pick yourself back up. And you get with someone that will. We believe in you as our hidden figures, and we know that soon all of your gifts will come out. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give our hidden figures a round